Hriday. Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Does anyone want to share whatever your takeaways are from coverage of those 3 shlokas before we go on to the PDF? For me, I just found that the Puranas are such a beautiful, way of connecting with stories, the absolute truths. We know that Brahman is absolute and there is only one. But it's such a very beautiful way for the common man to understand. We have these Puranas that weave these beautiful stories. They have a direct meaning as well as a literal and an implied meaning. So the story of Bhagiratha and how he's brought Ganga down, and how that just that few verses, the phrase Gangodakam, how just sipping a little bit of Ganga water and how Ganga is considered so pure is so beautifully described in the Purana. So being a Deva Nadi, it is brought to the earth because of so much of penance that Bhagiratha did. And it went on to Shiva's head and through the sage Janu's, mouth and came out of his ears. So much of purification has happened. So therefore, Ganga is considered so pure. And from Vishnupada, the very beginning where Brahma does that, he washes his father's feet in the Vamana Avatara. So all that was very, very beautiful.
And we are the inheritors of this culture. Yeah. And we have a responsibility to pass it down to the future generations. And I'm very grateful for Nanaji for, rekindling these stories in us, and to you for Brahmaraji for organizing this. And I feel a very strong responsibility that we all have to, in some way, pass it down to the future generations as well.
That is the Rishi.
We are inheritors of this culture. That's what came to me.
Very beautiful. That is what is one of the rinas, one of the debts we all have to give is Rishi Rina. That is whatever we've learned, we've got from these teachers, from scriptures, we have to pass it down. That is our responsibility. Sharing whatever you've known, whatever you've learned. That's very nice. The other one was the Parayana. The very how beautifully it was explained. Para is the other bank, and Ayana, it is not Ayana. Ayana is a house or a hutment or whatever. So Parayana, you want to cross over and go to the other bank, reach your house, the other bank. So all this Vishnu Sahasranama Parayana. So using that, you want to cross over and reach the other shore. That was also very, very nice, I thought. Anyone wants to share? So did we stop at...
Dr. Dharandra, what has our generation done to Ganga Ji? How they have polluted it?
Yeah.
So, and then what to pass to the next generation, we ourselves haven't done anything to preserve our heritage. Just polluting Ganga and Yamuna.
In Bhagavad Gita Mahatmyam from Varaha Purana, how the Bhagavad Gita is a boat for you to cross over the samsara. That means when Nanaji was reading, no, that time I like that verses. We will go through that once again. Can you send me that PDF also?
Yeah, I will
Mahatmyam
post it in the group. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Posted earlier, but I'll post it again.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's very true, Dr. Renu. That is why the government has started Clean Ganga project, and Art of Living has a lot of river rejuvenation. And even before the World Culture Festival, there was a big drive to clean up Yamuna. They used a lot of bioenzymes because otherwise there was a lot of stench from there because of all the industrial chemicals and all the the sewage water that was poured into the river. There was a lot of stench. So in order to clear up the air and that the foul smell, a lot of cleansing was happening. So true, there are some people who continue to pollute, but there are these projects that are going on. At the same time, I think we should also look. We're talking of Ganga as a river. We are all sitting so far away from Ganga. But even in our own places, are we doing anything to prevent this pollution in our own house, in our own community, in our own neighborhood? Is what maybe we all should look at. No, look at the how we are made, what we are doing to preserve the environment and its sanctity, like all the recycling and
Yeah.
in our own small way. We should, I think, adopt this. Then when you begin as a nucleus, then it will slowly go on and spread. You can inspire others to do that.
Yeah. We are doing that. I started all this recycling of paper in the Kuwait University.
Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Should we go to the chapter Shloka 18? सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलमजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रहभोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः. I thought we finished this yesterday, maybe. I don't know. Suramandira Taru Moolani Vasaha, dwelling, sheltering in temples under some trees.
Yeah, we finished 18.
We finished 18, right? Yeah, I remember this one. So we stopped at 19, I think. Does anyone want to chant the shloka?
You are chanting with very wonderful tune, Brahmaraji. So I want to learn that tune. Kindly chant.
Okay, this is what we learned. I mean, Bhajagovindam and chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita were the two slokas that we would listen to from when I was, I think, in my 3rd grade. Whatever I remember is these two were what my father would keep chanting every evening. Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihinaha yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva. Yogarataha. one who revels in yoga, va or bhogarataha, one who revels in bhoga, va or sangarataha, one seek enjoyment in company. It actually, there is in between the brackets, it is let one who revels in yoga, or let one who revels in bhoga, or let one who seeks enjoyment in company, va or sangavihinaha, let one who revels in solitude away from the crowd, yasya, for who, brahmani, in brahman, ramate, revels or sports, chittam, the mind, nandati, he enjoys, nandati, he enjoys, nandatyeva, only he enjoys. Let one revel in yoga, or let him revel in bhoga. Let one seek enjoyment in company, or let him revel in solitude away from the crowd. He whose mind revels in Brahman, he enjoys verily, he alone enjoys. Tuma, you want to read this? Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a verse glorifying the state of realization of Brahman as conceived by the scriptures of the Hindus. To me, who has awakened to this great truth, it is immaterial thereafter whether he is in a crowd or living all alone, in bhoga or in yoga. In whatever condition he may live, he may live, his is real joy. Mind at rest is the temple of joy. So long as it is gurgling with desires, passions, and attachments, it is in its stormy surface, the signature of joy gets ruffled out. To one who has realized the highest in himself and has thereby recognized the non-existence of the multi-world of names and forms, and who has also realized the infinite bliss in the sense of oneness, his indeed is the true joy. This joy is true because it is not dependent upon things and beings, nor upon the arrangement of things around the individual. To a man of realization, after his experience of the infinite, there is nothing more real to him than the Brahman. And therefore, let him remain practicing self-control, if he so chooses, yoga, or let him live in seeming indulgence at the sense levels, bhoga. Let him be in the company of the world, serving the world by joining himself at the head of the parade, or let him remain burying himself in lonely contemplation in the silence of some Himalayan cave. His alone is the true joy of the within. He no more seeks from the outer world any joy from his, move it up a little more, from his sense gratification. There are very many texts wherein it is said that even the Vedas dare not prescribe rules, vidhi nisheda, to regulate a perfect man's behavior. He has all freedom. He can do anything. In explaining this absolute freedom allowed to the man of perfection, Panchadashi goes so far as to say, killing parents, destroying embryo, these sins even cannot destroy either the liberation achieved by the saint or the joyous glow on his face. This is not to be understood as licentiousness which the Brahman has allowed himself through his Vedas. It is something very like the special powers we allow some great men in all walks of life even in our modern world. The Supreme Court judge can finally decide whether a murderer is to be hung or not, or the President of India is given the power to pardon the condemned and reduce his punishment to life imprisonment. When these powers and the freedom to use them are allowed, it is relegated not to everybody, but only to those members of the community in whom the civilized world has perfect faith that they will be ever just, good, and noble. A full-fledged doctor alone is given the freedom to use his knife on the body of another living member of the society, and the patient may even die bleeding from the wound which the doctor had created. That which would have been a murder in any other member of the society, in the doctor, it is considered an essential service. Similarly, the man of perfection is one who will not and cannot act selfishly, nor has he any need to quote his fulfillment of life in the objects of the world outside. And so this freedom is given to him. The father gives the key of his cash box to his son only when he has grown up sufficiently. If the key is given in childhood, in early youth, the boy, having not realized the sanctity of wealth and understood the difficulties of earning, may misuse the freedom and so harm himself. Only when he has grown to a sense of responsibility and has some experience of the difficulties of life does he know the right use of money. Also, it is a fact that the father gives readily the key of his cash box to the son only when the dad is confident that what the son earns and puts in there will be more than what he will be taking out of it. By this very nature, a man of perfection is capable of acting against the moral harmony and the ethical
He is
goodness in society.
incapable of acting.
By his very nature, a man of perfection is incapable of acting against the moral harmony and the ethical goodness in the society. Having realized the self, he has become the self in all. The Upanishad rishis, from their own experience, assure us that a realized saint thereafter lives sporting with the self, reveling with the self, and ever in the service of the world. Gurudev, no?
Yeah.
Sporting with the self. He plays all games and reveling in the self and ever in the service of the world. Our Gurudev. Such a man of perfection alone enjoys in this world of sorrows and tribulations, of contentious competitions and endless imperfections, of disease and death, the spotless joy of the perfect. He alone enjoys, truly enjoys, verily he alone enjoys, cries Sri Nityananda, to whom this stanza is generally attributed. You have to move it up.
Yeah. No, there were some footnotes that I thought.
Okay.
That is Mata Pitror Vadaha Steyam Gruna Hatyanna Didrisham Namuktim Nashayet Papam Mukhakantirna Nashyati. This is in the Panchadashi. That is what it says, no? He is absolved of the sins of killing his Mata Pitur Vadha Steyam. Bruna Hatya Anadyadi Drisham. Namuktam Nashet Papam Mukha Kantirna Nashyati. See, because for him, a man of realization is completely at a different level. For him, all this world is so unreal. He is reveling in the truth of the reality. So for him, there is no papa punya. So for him, even when he kills, it is not considered killing. That is what is mentioned in the Panchadashi. But then we should not misuse this and understand it like it's a licentiousness given to everybody. Or so he has all the freedom, he can do anything. This absolute freedom, killing parents, destroying embryo, these sins even cannot destroy either the liberation achieved by the saint or the joyous glow on his face. Yeah. But for all of us who are still seeped in this reality of the world, the laws will, of course, apply. So you can't go around quoting this shloka and, commit these crimes. No, it has to be understood well. Bhagavad-gītā kinchidadhītā Gangā-jala-lava-karnika pītā Sakradapi yena murari-samāchā Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. Bhagavad-gītā, the Bhagavad-gītā, kinchit, even a little, adhita, has studied. Ganga Jala Lava Kanika, a drop of Ganges water, Pita, has sipped, Sakritapi, at least once, Yena, by whom, Murari Samadcha, worship of the Lord Murari, that is Murasya Arihi, the enemy of Mura, a Rakshasa, that is a Mura, that is the meaning of Murari. Kriyate is done, Tasya to him, Yamena, with Yama, the Lord of Death, Na, never, charcha, quarrel or discussion. To one who has studied the Bhagavad Gita even a little, who has sipped at least a drop of Ganges water, who has worshipped at least once Lord Murari, to him there is no discussion, quarrel with Yama, the Lord of Death. Yeah. Seek Govind, seek Govind.
3 divine exercises for spiritual unfoldment are being indicated here. The study of the Gita, the Ganga baptism, and the worship of Murari. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, being the essence of all the Upanishads, a study of its 18 chapters, is an intellectual discipline by which we can come to understand what exactly is the secret essence of life, what exactly is the goal of life, and what are the methods by which this goal can be gained. The heavenly Ganges, Akasha Ganga, flowing so high above the human intellectual approach, was brought down to man's level of experience by the continuous efforts of King Bhagiratha. And today, it is emerging out from the pure intellect of Lord Shiva, who alone could stand the onslaught of her devastating wisdom descent. The eternal Tapaswin, the Lord of Kailash, realized that this great knowledge, absolute jnanam, first and thereafter, at the request of Bhagiratha, he gave out that knowledge in a thin stream which could perennially water the country's heart rather than rape the land down with its irresistible deluge. To move it up. Thus, Ganga stands for the spiritual knowledge. The Hindu, for the Hindu, the eternal river of knowledge of the self that has been kept up till today, flowing from teacher to the taught in an unbroken perennial stream. To sip a drop of this perennial flow, Ganga is to enjoy the serenity and fullness of the inner kingdom. Ordinarily, the modern child of this country, due to the power of tradition and faith, takes Ganga to mean the Himalayan river, and like the multitudes, they too have come to give a special potency to her elemental waters. In their scientific outlook, this is a faith and there is no convincing meaning. Naturally, they believe that, and yet they believe not. Some positively decry this belief. What is there sacred in a river? Ask some. What a colossal ignorance of the symbolism. What is there in your national flag as such, except 3 colored pieces stitched together with a wheel figure in the center? The sanctity of my country's flag is not in the material contents or in the form of it, but in its significance that I have given to it. So too, Mother Ganga is sacred, for she signifies the spiritual wisdom and the flow of it along the teacher-taught unbroken stream. To the ordinary folk, this eternal river and the worshipping it, the ritualism itself is a great consolation, a wondrous achievement, a consoling action, a purifying religious pilgrimage. But to the seeker of the higher knowledge, who walks the path of knowledge more than the ideal interpreted in the ideal is important. The ideal interpreted in the ideal is important. Thus, here in the context of the stanza, the statement, who has sipped at least a drop of the Ganges water should mean those who have at least had a glimpse of the infinitude and the higher possibility of the divine way of living. If the study of the Gita gives an intellectual and objective picture of the goal and the path to the scholarly student, a few drops of the Ganges sipped from the hollow of his palm give to the ardent devotee the flicker of a joyous vision of the distant goal. To him, the harbor is no more too far away. To him, the harbor is no more too far away, because he has seen the flashes from the lighthouse, and yet he is still in the open sea of life, buffeted by the stormy waves of sorrows around him. But he has hopes. He is now confident. The harbor is not far, and he makes a dash towards it. When a ship enters the harbor, it is not allowed to sail and enter in as she likes, but a pilot ship must go out and pilot the guest ship in. The ship that seeks shelter of the harbor must have the patience to stand out, constantly sending radio messages to the harbor tower. A seeker who has thus become assured of the harbor at hand must thereafter call out for help, Kirtana. Wait till the pilot ship arrives, Guru, and implicitly follow the forms left by the guiding ship. This piloting in is accomplished in spirituality by the worship of Murari. The weighing the anchor is meditation. Wow, so beautiful simile, no?
So beautiful.
You may want to read this para one more time.
Yeah.
When the ship enters the harbor.
When the ship enters the harbor, it is not allowed to sail in and enter in as she likes, but a pilot ship must go out and pilot the guest ship in. The ship that seeks shelter of the harbor must have the patience to stand out, constantly sending radio messages to the harbor tower. A seeker who has thus become assured of the harbor at hand must thereafter call out for help, Kirtana. Wait till the pilot ship arrives, Guru, and implicitly follow the forms left by the guiding ship. This piloting in is accomplished in spirituality by the worship of Murari. The weighing the anchor is meditation. Until ego, Mura, is annihilated, there is no hope of entering the harbor of truth, the glorious state of immaculate peace. The body consciousness and the ego sense arising out of a false identification with matter can be rubbed off only by devoted worship and prayer at the altar of the very destroyer of ego, Murari. Withdrawing the mind from all other preoccupations and surcharging it constantly with the memory of the goal, the nature of the self, is the only method by which intellectual and mental limitations are battered down. When the individual realizes that the life within is life everywhere present, and in fact, in the supreme logic of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this is simply endorsed.
Fully
A
endorsed.
seeker who is fully endorsed. Sorry, I'll read that again. Yeah. Withdrawing the mind from all other preoccupations and surcharging it constantly with the memory of the goal, the nature of the self, is the only method by which intellectual and mental limitations are battered down. When the individual realizes that the life within is the life everywhere present, and in fact, in the supreme logic of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this is fully endorsed. A seeker who has accomplished all these three study of the Shastras, glimpsing the goal and striving to reach it, to him, there is no more any fear of death. He is no more questioned by Lord Death, nor does the seeker care any longer to question about the phenomenon of death. It is interesting to note that in Hinduism, Lord Death is called as the great controller, Yama. Lord Death is called the great controller, Yama. But for the principle of death, so efficiently working all around, existence would have been impossible, nor can creation ever take place. For to create is to annihilate the present condition of a thing, and thereby making it into a new form and presenting it in a new condition. Thus viewed, you'll have to move it up. The very creation is a continuous process of annihilation. The question of change can arise only in the realm of death. Change is experienced through the vehicle of the body, mind, and intellect. When a seeker, through the process of yoga, has transcended these three vehicles, he rises above the realm of change, a realm where infinite existence alone is. There, neither is he to question nor to fear death, nor can the principle of change, which is death, can ever enter to question him. There is an alternative reading. Not even death dares to question him. This stanza is traditionally believed to be given out by Sri Anandagiri.
Wow, this thing is like a big wow, actually.
Yeah.
You know, this the withdrawing this mind from Mother, surcharging it constantly with the memory of the goal. That mumukshutvam has to be there, that burning desire has to be there. It is and is the only method by which intellectual and mental limitations are battered down. When you hook yourself to the higher, then all the other lower sense pleasures and all your cravings, desires automatically drop down. See, when you're if you're focused on reading the scripture, like what Percy G is doing, how is he spending his time? He's either reading some scripture or listening to some wisdom talk. So his mind will not go to watching some, whatever mundane things. So when you hook yourself to the higher, all the other mental limitations drop down, they're battered down. And when the individual realizes that the life within is a life everywhere, he sees himself everywhere. There's that oneness. Then, in that supreme logic of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this is fully endorsed. More than this, I was actually wanting to show that where he's seeing the lighthouse, but the ship cannot go. He's constantly sending radio messages to the harbor tower. But he has to wait for the Guru's grace to actually take him there. And that can happen only when the ego is destroyed. That is why Murari, that's why Shankara has been using this word Murari so often. It is that the one that subdues the ego, that annihilates the ego. I wouldn't even call it subdue. Subdue is not the right term. Where you should sublimate the ego, then in that glorious state of immaculate peace is then reached. So, so beautiful, this one. Yeah. Any sharing on this?
I like the analogy given of the guiding pilot ship guiding it into the harbor. Normally, a captain of a big boat was driven in the wild seas on the rough waves, gone through so many cyclonic tornadoes. He thinks he can easily go through the harbor also. One slight mistake, not knowing how the waves are going, and he could lose his cargo and also damage his ship. The pilot ship is so important to him in his life. So also our ego, like we need a guru, a master in our lives, just like the pilot ship is required. You can tame the waters in the ocean, but when it comes to the harbor, you need. So when you want to go beyond the ego, you need a master.
That is the last step, no? In all of this is to drop the ego. That's the most difficult thing to do. So there's so much of identification with the ego. This I. Very beautiful, Percy G. I like that thing where, even one small mistake, that is why it is called Kshurasya Dhara Nihita Duratyaya. It is like walking on a razor edge, the path of spirituality. Because one little mistake and it's so easy to just fall back in. So constant awareness is what is important. Being aware. Yeah. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha samsare bahudustare, kripaya pare pahi murare. Punaha api, once again, jananam, birth, punaha api, once again, maranam, death, punarapi, again, janani jathare, in the mother's womb, shayanam, lying, iha, here, samsare, in this samsara or process, bahudustare, samsara which is very hard to cross over, apare, samsara which has no end, kripaya, through the infinite kindness, pahi, save, murare, O destroyer of Mura. Again, birth, again death, and again lying in the mother's womb. This samsara process is very hard to cross over. Save me, Murari, O destroyer of Mura, through thy infinite kindness. Seek Govind, seek Govind. Yeah. Over to you, Suma.
The wheel of birth and death is never at rest for the jiva. The individualized ego, prompted by desires, entertained by his imagination, and cultivated by his habits. This is very important, cultivated by his habits, but not yet completely fulfilled, must seek ever fresh fields of experiences repeatedly. In each lifetime, instead of exhausting the existing desires, vasanas, each one gathers to himself a new set of vasanas. We come here for a purgation, but due to our ignorance of the way of the goal, the extrovertedness in us compels us to get ourselves attached to the objects, which have a beauty and a charm created by the imaginations of our own minds. Maya at work. We come with our own vasanas into vasanas, playing crisscross, which is the world of objects and beings, the actual world of man's endeavor, to live up to the sahaja vasanas and to exhaust them through actions, undertaken without ego and egocentric desires, aham, mama, so that no new vasanas may precipitate in us, is really the way. By all means, act and achieve, but let your actions be in an attitude of dedication. My sannyasa, with an idea to serve, loka samgraha, in a spirit of yajna bhav, says the Gita. So this is so important. Spirit of yajna bhav, serve the world with the idea of loka samgraha.
Loka sangraha and Mai sanyasya. So
My
you drop
sannyasa.
the aham and mama, you drop the ego, I and mine, and you let your actions continue to act, but offer them with an attitude of dedication. Ishwararpana buddhi, that is that Mai sanyasya, and Loka sangraha, with an idea to serve in a spirit of yajna.
Sacrifice, no? Yajna bhav. Thus, when the existing vasanas are reduced, the thought disturbances calm down. And thus, when the subtle body, mind, and intellect dies a mystic death, meaning in transcendent, the experience is transcended the experience is of the infinite spirit. Thereafter, since there are no vasanas in the
can anyone explain Sahaja Vasana? Thoda uppar, Brahmaraji.
Yeah.
We come with our own vasanas.
Yeah, I think that is that. 1 second. There is a Sahaja Vasana is given in chapter Gita, chapter 18. So we will come to that. I think, I mean, I don't know whether it is the vasanas that we are born with. But that's a good question. Maybe we can clarify with Nana tomorrow.
Yeah, Sumaji, could you please read that para again? Sorry for that. We come with our own para.
We come with our own vasanas into vasanas playing crisscross, which is the world of objects and beings, the actual field of man's endeavor. So we have come with vasanas, and in this field, again, we are playing with objects and people, and we collect more vasanas instead of dropping vasanas. That's what I think. To live up to the sahaja vasanas and to exhaust them through actions undertaken without ego and egocentric desires, aham mamama, so that no new vasanas may precipitate in us, is the real way.
As far as I understand, yeah, go ahead.
Somewhere I read that in this Manana session only, that to live with what we have come and exhaust that is contentment. Instead, we are faced with new field of action in this lifetime. So we follow that, run after those achievements, collecting more vasanas, rather than exhausting the vasanas with which we have come. So I don't know whether that is sahaja vasana, exhausting the existing vasanas. So live that and finish it off.
Sahaja is natural. I think sahaja here is natural. And it is the vasanas, as far as I understand, it is the vasanas that you are born with. You can't do anything about it. No, you're born with those tendencies. Now, if you remember in chapter 17, was it? The Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Each one of us comes with some inborn tendencies. So you can't do away with that. You have your they are there with you because that is what you're born with. But you can exhaust them if you follow the way of the Gita. That is this Mai Sanyasya, Loka Sangraha, Yajna Bhav. So when you drop your aham and mama and you're working only for the good of people and dedicating every action to the Lord, taking every consequence result as prasada, doing that is what you're doing it in the spirit of yajna bhav, then your sahaja vasanas will slowly get exhausted. You will not accrue new vasanas. So this is the way forward. If you do not follow this, then this lifetime also you're acquiring a new set of vasanas. So you're only accumulating more and more. So that is my understanding of this, but we can clarify what Sahaja Vasanas is from Nana tomorrow.
Dhanyavad, very beautifully explained.
You know, in some verses back when Swamiji was talking about that even for a child to be born, it is born from the parent, the food that the parents intake. And the food has come from the earth. The connection between microcosm and macrocosm. And then like telling us that even the child is not yours, it has come from this earth. And when we are talking about going beyond the ego, holding on to an identity, my son, my child, my daughter, So like even that is not yours. So that if you go back to that, what Swamiji said, explain that. That also is an impression that is there in your mind, my child. Then when you give up that also, then what Gurudev says, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is one big family. When you move from that to that, and that is when you cross over the ego. That is my understanding of it.
Very sweet.
Then that impression is washed out completely.
Mm.
You serve your children, your family, your parents the same way as you serve the entire world, all the people in the world.
Very beautiful. I remember when Suki Bhaiya had come to Bahrain, this is long back. He said, if you are able, is exactly what you said, Persiji. He said, if you are able to take care of every child like you take care of your own child, then you have reached that state of being one with everyone. But we don't do that, no. I think that is inbuilt in every animal. It takes care of its young, in the sense how the cat takes care of its kittens. The mother cat does not allow anybody to come around where it litters. So that may be inbuilt. I mean, unless that is there, that is how you preserve your the species which is there. But with this higher understanding, if we can let loose our mamakara for our children, so-called biological progeny, and see every other child, everybody else with that, uh, with the same love, unconditional love, then we would have gone to that samatva bhav.
Thus, when the existing vasanas are reduced, the thought disturbances calm down. And thus, when the subtle body, mind, intellect dies, come down a little. When the subtle body dies, a mystic death, meaning is transcended, and the experience is of the infinite self. So the mind has to die. Mind, intellect has to die.
This
That
is what
is
is
the
meant
real
by
death.
antakarna shuddhi, no? Now when they say the subtle body, we're talking of, the subtle body,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
basically what Bhagavad Gita keeps talking of antakarna shuddhi is this, where your mind and intellect die a mystic death. So while living in the body, you die. That is what is meditation. So many times Gurudev has said, he says, if it is dropping the body is meditation, dropping the mind, meditation.
Thereafter,
it is called dying alive.
Dying alive, correct. Dying while living.
आधा दे दो 10 भाई.
Thereafter, since there are no vasanas in the individual,
पूरा.
there are.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Thereafter, since there are no vasanas in the individual, there are no thoughts in him. And so, no subtle body to claim a new embodiment to function in any fresh environment. So thereafter, there are no vasanas in the individual, there are no thoughts in him. And so no subtle body to claim a new embodiment to function in any fresh environment. The causes for all repeated births thus totally cease. Birth is painful. Death, of course, is excruciatingly so again. To come to life in the horrid cell of the womb, there to be crushed, twisted, imprisoned, and persecuted by the physical, mental strains and jerks of the mother, is indeed abhorrent, terrible, cruel. Yet, as we are today, we seemingly we are seemingly helpless. The momentum gathered by this great fall from perfection is too powerful to be halted by themselves. The ego, born out of me, has now become a mighty power ruling over me relentlessly. And in front of this usurper of my bosom, I am but a slave. To free myself from this great inner tyrant, I need now a mighty friend, a powerful and sympathetic friend. Who can it be? Oh, the destroyer of Mura, the Lord Krishna, save me. Oh, so nice. Help me, please, is the ardent prayer unto him. Seeking his feet of love is the only way out. And even here, what right have I, the slave of my own passions, the non-believer all these years, to seek his help now? True, I have no faith to meet thee, O Lord. I have nothing to offer thee except my own tears. I have nothing to claim for myself except the fatigue of my indulgence, the stink of my selfish acts, the sweat of my passions, the cords of my attachments. In fact, I don't deserve to be saved. Yet, Lord, I am tired, beaten out completely, exhausted thoroughly, repentant fully, helpless wholly. I surrender myself to thee and thy grace. I claim a hearing and expect help from thee. Are not thou the ocean of kripa, of grace, of kindness, of love? Art thou not the destroyer of the demon Mura? Won't thou in thy kindness take pity on me and once more destroy the old enemy Mura in my bosom, the bundle of my own wretched vasanas? So true for all of us. Thus to surrender unto him and to sincerely invoke his grace is to create in us divine and godly vasanas, which are the only antidote to the ego and the egocentric vasanas that constantly clamor in our bosom for gratification. Once these are hushed, the song of the flute bearer shall be heard. The blue light of his aura can be seen. The fragrance of his garland of wild flowers can be smelt. The butter in his hand can be tasted. The embrace of the infinite can be experienced.
I really fall in love with the way Swamiji describes.
Yeah. So
Especially
nice. You can
Even
visualize,
Kitapa,
no?
how he describes.
this thing, the previous paragraph really brought tears. This one, where is that? I'm not able to go up. This one, this act
The
of
cry
surrender.
of the heart.
Yeah, it is. See, I'm so tired. It's like it's actually surrender, total surrender. So beautiful. He's like putting himself bare. That's what Gurudev says in front of the divine. You have to be naked. Naked in the sense, not physically, of course, but mentally. You should just bare yourself. You know, there's nothing that you hold back. And then say, this much I have done. I can't do any more. So please save me. So beautifully described. I think we can revel in this. I have nothing to offer except my own tears. I have nothing to claim for myself except the fatigue of my indulgence, the stink of my selfish acts, the sweat of my passions, and the cords of my attachments. In fact, I don't deserve to be saved, yet I'm tired. You know, that sentence was so beautiful. I'm beaten out completely, exhausted thoroughly, repentant fully. Yeah. That is why they say, as much as knowledge is important, bhakti is so important. And this brings out that bhakti bhav, no?
Hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
It is
Even
said that after
Huh?
it is said that after giving all the commentaries of all the sutras, Vedas, and everything, Adi Shankara finally sang this Bhajagovindam, saying that even if you have all the knowledge, but if you don't have bhakti, you are of no use.
Right.
That's why he finally sang this Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam, Bhajamudamate.
So destroy the old enemy, Mura. That is why he's used this word Murari so many times.
Mm.
Right.
Someone was saying something.
Yeah, someone will say something. See, only when these egocentric vasanas are hushed up, then the song of the flute bearer shall be heard. The blue light of his aura can be seen. The fragrance of his garland of wildflowers can be smelled. It all signifies you'll be so close to the divine. The butter in his hand can be tasted, and the embrace of the infinite can be experienced. What description, yeah.
Covers all the senses.
Yeah. You become him, and there's no difference between
Mm.
him.
And the first lesson is also drop your jnanendriyas, no? What is that? Your sensory pleasures. Drop your sensory desires, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you drop everything, you get the highest of all those senses.
Shall we do these two more, 22 and 23?
Yes, Brahmaraji, please.
रथ्याचर्पट विरचित कण्ठः पुण्या पुण्य विवर्जित पन्थः योगी योग नियोजित चित्तो रमते बालोन्मत्तवदेव रथ्याचर्पट विरचित कण्ठः. He who wears the godadi, the shawl, made up of pieces of cloth rejected by others on the road. Rathya, the road. Charpata, pieces of old cloth. Virachita, made of. Kantha, godadi, a shawl. Punya, apunya, merit and demerit. Vi plus varjita, well left. Pantha, the path. Punya, apunya, vivarjita pantaha, who walks the path that is beyond merit and demerit. Yogi, the yogin. Yoga niyojita chittaha, whose mind is joined in perfect yoga. Ramate, sports or lives thereafter. Balavat eva, as a child. Or unmattavat eva, as a madman. The yogin who wears but a godadi, who walks the path that is beyond merit and demerit, whose mind is joined in perfect yoga with its goal, he revels in God consciousness and lives thereafter as a child or as a madman. Seek Govind, seek Govind.
A man of realization after achieving the goal and realizing the liquidation of his individuality and therefore of his personal proprietorship over his body, it is described in our sacred books that he thereafter lives on as a child, Balavat, as a madman, Unmatva, or as a ghost, Unmatavat, or as a ghost, Pishajavat. These examples are given to express one or the other aspect of his mental attitudes to the world outside. He is not a child or a madman or a ghost, yet he is like them. He has in him some qualities of these, and so he is like a child, like a madman, or like a ghost. Love and hatred we find even in children. They express all emotions as and when they arise in, in their innocent minds. But the very next moment, they have forgotten all about those feelings. Children are always found to be fully engrossed with their immediate mental mood. They have no capacity to drag the past into the present, color the present happenings with the dead past. There is perfect spontaneity both in children and in the perfect seer. A man of perfection also lives from moment to moment and lives fully and entirely in the chaste present. He carries no regrets from the past, nor has he any anxiety of the future. Right here and now, like the children ever do, the man of realization lives and revel, Balavat. The
Exactly
thing
what
has,
Gurudev says, no?
yeah, I'm not able to, okay. A madman moving amidst us, his mind is full of his own thoughts, and the ordinary folks have no entry into the thought world of the demented man. So too, the man of perfection moves amongst us, and his inner experiences are too deep and strange for us to gauge and understand. He lives amidst us. Often he conforms to the discipline of our social actions. But even though his feet are amidst us in our own world, his head is held ever above the clouds of likes and, you'll have to move it up, likes and dislikes. Ego, move it a little down. Ah. Ego and its vanities, joys and sorrows. Unmattavat. He revels in the peaceful state, the sannyasa avastha, samya avastha,
Samya.
samya, samya avastha. He revels in the peaceful state, the samya avastha, in the great equipoise. He, in his, he, in his inner life, walks the path which is beyond both merit and demerit, good and bad, pleasure and pain. These opposites are experienced only when the empirical world is projected by the mind. Merit and demerit cannot affect the perfect, and not even the Vedas prescribe or prohibit the actions of such Mahapurushas. The Upanishads claim, for one who is moving about above the three gunas, where is prescription, where is prohibition? Fearlessly he moves, alone in lonely jungles, in quiet places, by day and night. Fearlessly he moves about. Others are afraid of him in due reverence. Pishachavat, the ghost is afraid of none. All fear it. Oh, wow. Such a
Why?
man of perfection.
Sorry, Gurudev says no in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The rules for a Siddha Purusha are totally different, whereas for a sadhak it's different. So all of us are like sadhaks, whereas for Siddhas, it is different completely. These normal rules don't apply to them. So where is prescription, where is prohibition for such a person? Yeah.
Such a man of perfection, his mind totally plucked away from its usual fields of passion and lust. When it has reached a perfect yoga with the goal, it has reached its God realization. When such an individual transcends his intellect, mind and intellect, treads the surface of the globe, he is no more a slave of his body. So his body dare not demand anything for itself. However, the perfect man allows his body a minimum of protection, and this is indicated by the gadati, godati, that stitched cloth, no?
Mm.
That he needs minimum protection. And that's the Nanaji said, not cloth discarded by others, picked up and stitched, and he uses it as a garment, as a protection. In society, everyone has got duties, and duties go hand in hand with rights. If you are to enjoy the privileges in a nation as a citizen under its constitution, you have also definite duties towards the community in which you're living. The lesser the privileges, of course, lesser the duties. It is also very well known that a dead man has neither any duty nor has any privileges among the living. After the mystic death of the individual concept, the ego, the master, no more has any rights to demand, but out of his infinite love for the mankind, he cannot but take upon himself all duties. Thus, a true sage in India, according to our scriptures, serves the society day in and day out, without relaxation, with as much sincerity and diligence as a selfish man would work for his own personal gains in the world's various departments of activity. And yet, a sage takes from the world only a minimum, the barest need. This is indicated by the very traditional uniform of the rishis in India. They lived in the jungles. They fed themselves upon wild fruits, roots, and leaves. They sheltered themselves under the trees, preferably very near the burial ground. They kept for themselves, for their use, only a shell called the kamandalu. This attitude of taking from life the least, but giving back to life the most, is that which earned for the Mahatmas of this country the respect and reverence that we even today show for them. All these ideas are indicated when Shankara describes here that this God-man moves in the world, covering himself with only a kodadi. This is called as patchwork quilt, and it is a shawl made up of all sorts of available cloth pieces picked up by him from the wayside as and when he comes across them, and stitched them together at random to serve him as a multicolored, many designed shawl of variety textures. The idea being that since he has nothing more to gain from the world, he does not want to increase the competition of the world by demanding his rights even for the so-called utter necessities of life. What a contrast. Today, the best ones among us strive under a philosophy of minimum effort and maximum gain, while the fathers of our culture lived in our land with the healthy philosophy of maximum effort and minimum gains to themselves. The difference between these two philosophies are like day and night, and the joyous life in a cultured society should necessarily be poles far removed from the sorrows of a barbarous, uncultured, immoral society. This stanza is traditionally attributed to Sri Nityananda.
You know, this thing, I think the Percy G personifies all of this. maximum effort, minimum gain, constantly serving the society, and all of this is a true sage.
Yes, Hari Om. And it also reminded me of our Chinmaya mission pledge, Brahmaraji.
Yeah, exactly. To give more than um, what I consume, right? Is that what it is? To produce more
Yes.
than what I consume, to give more than what I take. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So this is the thing is minimum effort, maximum gain. This is the slogan of a material world, a man of the material world. Whereas maximum effort and minimum gain is that of a sannyasi. It actually talks of how a sannyasi is. And even that shawl, it signifies that he does not want to compete. Only what is left over, what is discarded, he's using. Even there is no competition. It's a very beautiful way of interpreting that shawl. Anyone wants to share? Yeah, okay. Should we finish this or we'll keep this for tomorrow?
I think tomorrow,
Thank you.
Brahmaraji,
We'll
you
do
also
this.
will be late.
Yeah, this one, I think, Nana, did he do this today? I don't think so, right?
No, he did not.
He did not. Yeah, we
No.
are absent with Nana. Yeah. So that is fine. I think we'll stop here today.
Today, very powerful Bhajagovindam stanzas. Feeling so blessed.
Very good. Lots of takeaways today and things for us to practice. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev. Om.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai
Dhanyavad.
Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Dhanyavad.
Anyone wants to do chapter 2 tomorrow? But Nana said he will do it in case nobody else is there. So let me know.
Even I can do if nobody is there, Brahmaraji.
Yeah. So just put it in the message, Bela, so people will know that you're doing the chapter.
Yeah, my dream. Yes.
Your voice is very sweet. Very melodious.
Dhanyavad, Dr. Renu. Thank you so much.
Dr. Renu, she's a gopi.
I wish I could, innovate that. Very, very chant.
Yes. No doubt about it.
Thank you so much.
She's a gopi. So, what was I saying? I wanted to share something.
For chapter 2, Brahmaraji.
Yeah, chapter 2. Is any of you able to share screen? Bela, you're still in India, right?
Yeah, Brahmaraji. And I'll be traveling tonight. So, but that's what, otherwise I would love to, but that's why I'm not committing, my dear.
Okay. So will you be able to chant tomorrow? Will you be?
Yeah, that's what. If I'm home, if I reach home, then I will definitely.
Okay. So otherwise, yeah, no problem. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Sheila ji, you chanted very well today.
Thank you, Brahmaraji, for correcting me. That Agra, Chitta was...
those minor things only. Yeah.
No, it's not minor. When you are chanting in such a nice group, you need to be perfect. That perfection made me little aware,
Right.
And I would like to thank
You are
Belaji.
the better than all of us who dare not take the responsibility of chanting. So both of you, kudos to you. Well done.
Thank you, Dr. Renu. Shilaji is really, I learn from her. Her voice is so beautiful, melodious.
Yeah, when you have that quality in yourself, you appreciate the other person too. That is my guru. Guru says, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Now I follow that, and I would like to thank Belaji for giving me the opportunity to chant the concluding part, because that one shloka was there, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, that my father used to chant every now and then. That, and that's how I got stuck to this Bhajagovindam, I relived the moment I spent with him. Thank you so much.
Very beautiful.
And thank you so much for the whole group for allowing me to, and especially Nanaji, who said, Sheilaji, are you there? Oh my God. that made me, yes, on the 7th cloud or 9th cloud or whatever cloud.
All this is his vibhutis only, right?
Very true. Nana is our vibhuti, and really we are blessed to have him. My experience is also the same when Nanaji delivers the talk and when he tells to chant, or I mean, it is very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I remember first day when you were not, Brahmaraji, you were not there. When Belaji offered her seva, he said, now on when Brahmara is not there, you are my Brahmara. Oh, that was so beautiful. He's feeling oneness with everyone.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Jai Gurudev. Such a wonderful soul we have met.
Truly
Brahmaraji made it.
Mm.
Yes, Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.